Hey everyone and welcome back to Unorthodox Cricket. And boy am I dejected today. I'm really struggling to put a smile on my face after last night's game between England and New Zealand. I just had so much hope for the Kiwis and they've disappointed me once again, and I really can't see how they're going to get through the semi-finals if they make it. But what do you do? You push on. So what we're going to do today, guys, is we're going to take a quick recap of that game. And then the big one today is we're going to see what New Zealand's issues really are, and if there's any way to fix them come semi-final time to even be competitive against probably India or Australia. And then finally we're going to take a quick look at the dead rubber between the West Indies and Afghanistan. Probably not a lot to talk about, but maybe just some players to watch. Now, as we take a look at last night's game between England and New Zealand, England won the toss and scored 305 for 8 at their end of their 50 overs. Johnny Bairstow and Jason Roy at it once again, absolutely phenomenal. Bairstow ended up on 106 and Roy fell for 60. Now these two are just so good, and they are going to be one of England's key points to pushing through the semi-finals and into the final. Now once New Zealand finally got rid of these two guys, they managed to pull it back quite a bit. Both Bolt, Henry and Neesham picking up 2 wickets apiece. Probably Neesham being the pick of the bowlers with 2 for 41 off his 10. He's really impressed me since his comeback. I never rated him as a bowler, but last night he really impressed with his cutters and his different variations, so that's one positive for New Zealand moving forward. And New Zealand in return, absolute garbage, 186 all out. Really just heartbreaking us New Zealand fans once again. The only real positive to this innings was Tom Latham. He started off really well and he ended up on a fluent 57. So hopefully he's found a bit of nick if we do make the semi-finals and we can move into that. But that's about the only benefit to the New Zealand batting innings. The pick of the English bowlers, Mark Wood picked up 3 for 34. Bowled well again, quick, bouncy. And that was also backed up by Joffa Archer at the top, who bowled really tightly and threatening, and he picked up 1 wicket as well. Now that whole New Zealand innings just never got started. Henry Nicholls got wrapped on the pads early doors, got given out LBW, didn't review, turns out it was missing by a long way. Probably a lack of confidence on his behalf, not wanting to use up a review. Martin Guptill found out another way to get out. He got tickled down the leg side, so his poor run continues. And then both Ross Taylor and Williamson get themselves run out. Kane Williamson a little bit unlucky, a wee on punch from Roscoe. Wood got his fingers on the end of it. But at the end of the day, Williamson was backing up too far and he was slow to get back. And then a few overs later, Roscoe noodled one off his hip, tried to push 2 and he was nowhere near. So, rookie mistakes from such experienced guys. And yeah, as I say, not a lot to take away from New Zealand from that batting performance. Now, I'm an absolute die-hard New Zealand fan. As long as I've played the game, I've supported the Black Caps. Earlier on in my life, that was tough. We didn't have the greatest team. But over the last 5, 6, 7 years, we really have shown that we can compete with the top teams. And in the last World Cup, making the final really gave me that belief that we should be there and we can be competitive. So the last few games for New Zealand is really hard. Just seeing the potential we have and then just flopping to poor cricket, bad decision making, and a whole range of other factors. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look at some of New Zealand's issues and see if they can't fix them moving forward into the semi-finals. So the first one is Martin Guptill. Now, New Zealand have always struggled for opening batsmen. As long as I've remembered, that seems to be the joke in New Zealand, just the revolving door of guys who come in, come out and just fail. And we've never had good opening batsmen until Martin Guptill came along in the one-day form and he just really showed how it can be done. Now, he was instrumental in New Zealand's last World Cup, a huge part of us making that final. And this World Cup, he's really struggled and he just seems to be finding new ways to get out every innings. Now, I'm not really sure what the fix here is. It's a bit of bad luck, a bit of bad form, but we've seen in the last couple games he's bringing out those beautiful on drives in a still position. So I think he is there and I think he will fire. I'm really hoping it's in the semi. But a bit of bad luck for Guptill, but I'm sure he'll be working hard in the nets to try and put some big runs on the board in the semi-final. Now, New Zealand as a team at the moment, they just seem to lack confidence, particularly in the batting department. I think that's probably running down from the top. So Henry Nicholls and Colin Munro have really struggled this whole World Cup. and that probably just filters down to the rest of the team, knowing that they're probably not going to get that foundation on which they can work off. And coming from that, that sort of leads into no intent in the first 15 overs. So we've seen New Zealand have been very defensive, they haven't played a lot of shots, and they've dug themselves a bit of a hole in those first 15 overs, being 2 or 3 down with not many on the board. And that just leads to so much pressure on Taylor and Williamson. Now, they're world-class players, but you can't expect them day in and day out to come off of the back of 2 down, 3 down, and rebuild the innings, which they might be going at 3 and over. Not only to build the innings, but to increase that run rate as well. It's just too much to put on these guys. Now, they're great players, but give them a foundation. Give them something to work with, and then they can really assert their dominance on the bowling team. Now, coming off the back of this pressure on Taylor and Williamson, if they don't score big runs and score them quickly, it just leaves too much for the all-rounders to do. You can't expect de Grandhomme, Neesham, and Santner to be scoring at 10 plus and over for the last 15 overs. It's too much of a task, and it comes back to showing a bit of intent in those first 15 overs, taking pressure off the middle order, and then leaving the tail something reasonable to finish with. 8s and over for the last 15 overs, 10s for the last 8 overs, but you can't leave them 10 and over for the last 15. It's just too much, and that's just not a good formula to winning games of cricket. And at the end of the day, all of these factors just basically lead into one simple problem, and that's just not enough runs. Whether that's chasing or setting, they're simply not scoring enough runs. And we all know to win a game of cricket, you need to score more runs than the opposition, so this is not looking great. But what we'll do now is we're going to have a quick look at some potential fixes and just see whether or not New Zealand can turn this around. Now, I'm always so hopeful that teams can turn it around, and I really think New Zealand can. I hope that's not just me being a bit naive, but I think there are some serious things they can do to give them that chance of pushing through the semi-finals and being competitive once again. So starting at the top of the order, Munro or Nicholls. Now, who do you go for? Munro's shown that he's horribly out of form and he hasn't really done it at the international level, whereas Nicholls is new to opening and he hasn't got a lot of experience in that department. For me, I know this is probably not going to be a popular opinion with New Zealand fans, but I would probably lean towards Colin Munro. Just give him a licence. Just say, go out there, strike at 150, and just take some pressure off the likes of Guptill, Taylor, and Williamson. Now, even if he can manage a 30 off 15 balls, I think that's probably a better bet than Nicholls scoring 30, 40, 50 off 50 or 60 balls. Just really showing that impetus in the first 15 overs and solving one of those problems that we discussed earlier. Now the next problem, Martin Guptill. Now he's been finding every way under the sun to get out, so I really just think he needs to go out there and play with freedom. Ever since his ODI debut, he's come out and he's played with freedom, and they're the days that he's looked best. His ability to hit down the ground and in the air with pure confidence is one of the trademarks of his game, and he really just needs to find that. He's always been such a good puller of the ball, but in recent years he seemed to put that away. So I'd really just like to see Guptill come out, play with freedom, take on the bowler, try not to fight for survival, which it looks like he's been trying to do in the last few games, probably just because of his bad form, but just come out, show some intent, look to score runs, look to score them quickly, and put the pressure back on the opposition bowlers. Now, if these first two come off, if you select Munro and he scores a quick 20-odd and Guptill's playing with freedom, that really gives the opportunity to Taylor and Williamson to control the game. Now, they're both masters of controlling a middle order. They just really need that platform to do it from. If they come in at sort of 2 for 80 at the end of 15 overs, it gives them that run rate leeway to work with. Whereas if they're in after 15 overs and New Zealand are 3 for 50, not only do they have to rebuild, but they have to up the run rate. So it's really important for whoever does open to not only set that foundation, but do it at a good strike rate so it takes a bit of pressure off Williamson and Taylor so they can control the innings. Now, once they've done this, it really sets it up for the powerful all-rounders. Now, I think Jimmy Neesham and de Grandhomme are probably really underrated in terms of world cricket as to their power. I think a lot of New Zealand fans have seen it in the domestic scene, but they haven't quite shown it on the international scene on a regular basis. But I think if they get the foundation, world cricket will be surprised at just how powerful Neesham and de Grandhomme are. And just the final potential fix, going out there with a nothing to lose attitude. Now over the last few games they haven't really been competitive, they haven't looked like a semi-final or a finals team, so go out there, enjoy your cricket and play with some freedom. Just know that this is another chance to do well, and it's going to be a hard game whether it's India or Australia, but I think it's really time that the Kiwis try and take it back to those bowling oppositions and put them on the back foot rather than us sitting back and getting tied down and them having us on the back foot the whole game. And just one last thing I forgot to mention, Tim Southee played last night, looked absolute garbage. I was excited to see him play. I thought he might do well. I don't know what's happened to his game, whether he's just lost all confidence or he doesn't work hard. I don't like to speculate there, but something's really changed in his game. He's gone from being one of the best bowlers in the world to not even making the New Zealand team. But then at the end of the day, he did bowl the last over and he did show how good he is at hitting a Yorker. So whether it's consistency with him or whatnot, I'm not sure, but I don't think we'll see him again for the rest of the tournament. So I'm really hopeful New Zealand can be competitive. I'm really hoping they can turn things around, and I think they do have the potential, but it's going to be a bit of a mind switch for them and just come at the game with a different approach. Now just finally taking a look at tonight's game between the West Indies and Afghanistan. Not a lot to play for, but I'm just really hoping for a spectacle as I was in the last. So I'm really hoping Chris Gale can finally find some form. I hope he goes away from this mentality of getting in for 30 balls, being 15 off 30 and then trying to tee off. I'd like to see him go back to his 2020 roots and just tee off from ball one. Try and pump a quick 100, maybe even push for a double and just really entertain the crowd. Secondly, I'd like to see Hetmeyer and Pooran score some runs. I think these guys are going to be massive for the West Indies' future if they're nurtured right and they're given the right opportunities. So it'd be great to see them score some runs. Now moving on to Afghanistan, I'd like to see Rashid Khan given a bit more opportunity with the bat. Now, from what I've seen with him, he really looks like he could develop into a great all-rounder. He just needs to be given that chance. A couple innings in the BBL, he's just got such clean striking. He said he models his batting off Shahid Afridi, so that's exciting by itself. But I'd like to see him move up to maybe 4 or 5, give him some time in the middle and just see what he is really capable of. And lastly, I'd like to see Zazai score some runs. For me, he was one of the guys at the start of the tournament who I thought might surprise teams and be a bit dominant. He's really struggled, he's been figured out a bit, so hopefully he's gone away, worked on his game and can provide some fireworks at the top. But that's all for today, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the England-New Zealand game. If you're a Kiwi fan or an outside perspective, what you think they can potentially do to turn it around. And if you're looking forward to anything in tonight's game between the West Indies and Afghanistan. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow.